At 11:47 p.m. on November 11, 1940, Lieutenant Commander Kenneth Williamson sat in the cramped cockpit of his Fairey Swordfish biplane, watching the lights of Taranto harbor sparkle like a constellation in the Adriatic Sea. His gloved hands held the controls with steady force, while the Bristol Pegasus radial engine roared monotonously in front of him. Behind him, in the observer's seat, Lieutenant N.J. Scarlett checked the navigation instruments for the last time, his breath forming small clouds of vapor in the icy air of the open cabin. Around them, scattered in a loose formation through absolute darkness, 20 obsolete planes each carried a single torpedo, ready to attack the most powerful Italian fleet in the Mediterranean. The extra weight of the Mark 12 torpedoes made the Swordfish fly heavily, every movement of the joystick requiring more effort from the pilots. It was a suicide mission, and everyone knew it. The Swordfish barely reached 220 kilometers per hour with the torpedoes hanging under the fuselage, too slow to escape modern fighters, too fragile to survive concentrated anti-aircraft fire. The Italians had 6 battleships anchored in 2 parallel lines, 7 heavy cruisers positioned strategically around the inner harbor, and dozens of destroyers constantly patrolling the waters. The defensive system included 101 anti-aircraft guns, 27 high-intensity searchlights synchronized by a fire control center, 87 barrage balloons floating at 800 meters, and submerged anti-torpedo nets. The Regia Marina considered Taranto absolutely impregnable, the safest port in the Mediterranean. But that night, something impossible was about to happen. British pilots of the Fleet Air Arm had trained for 6 months with weaponry that German engineers openly mocked, calling it guitar string, steel wires connected to small explosives, floating in the water like a makeshift fishing net. Captured German intelligence reports later revealed that Kriegsmarine analysts had prepared a technical memo in August 1940 describing the British system as primitive and ineffective for real combat. Nazi admirals laughed during planning meetings in Berlin. "Are the English going to fish for ships with strings?" was the recurring joke. Grand Admiral Eric Redder reportedly commented with disdain that the British were wasting resources on absurd experiments. But 4 hours after that attack, 7 Italian warships would be at the bottom of the sea, and the water of Taranto harbor would be stained with fuel oil leaking from thousands of tons of perforated holes. The German Kriegsmarine would realize too late that they had severely underestimated British ingenuity. That guitar string was not a fishing net. It was the most revolutionary weapon in naval warfare, the aerial torpedo equipped with a double proximity detonator and a hydraulic stabilization system that allowed for shallow water launches, something every naval expert in the world considered technically impossible until that moment. The crisis had begun in September 1939, when the Royal Navy faced an existential threat to its 300-year naval supremacy. Conventional torpedoes launched from submarines were predictable and easily avoided by modern ships with acoustic detection. But aerial torpedoes were a revolutionary and technically impossible idea according to engineering manuals of the time. A Mark 12 torpedo weighed exactly 702 kilograms and needed to enter the water at an absolute angle between 55 and 65 degrees, otherwise it would shatter or sink straight into the seabed. The impact force at 200 kilometers per hour was equivalent to 47 times the force of gravity. Launching such a heavy object from a plane flying at just 30 meters at 200 kilometers per hour and making it work consistently was considered pure fantasy. Early tests in 1938 resulted in 100% failure. But Captain Dennis Boyd, the visionary commander of the HMS Illustrious, did not accept impossible as an answer. His team of engineers spent 14 months developing a revolutionary hydraulic stabilization system that included adjustable pressure shock absorbers and compressible bronze rings to absorb the initial shock. The result was the Mark 12 torpedo, equipped with a simultaneous magnetic and mechanical contact detonator nicknamed the duplex pistol. The magnetic detonator detected the metallic mass of the enemy hull from 2 meters away and detonated the warhead directly under the keel, where the hull was most vulnerable. But the true secret was the revolutionary suspension system, high-strength braided steel cables connected to hydraulic shock absorbers filled with glycerin. The system functioned like a sophisticated automotive suspension, distributing the impact force over 0.3 seconds instead of 0.01 seconds, reducing instantaneous pressure by 97%. When the first prototypes were tested, German spies reported disastrously long conclusions. A decoded report from 1939 stated that the British were using guitar strings and mattress springs to hold torpedoes in antiquated planes, concluding it was a desperate measure that represented no serious threat. This arrogance would prove costly. In August 1940, final tests at Loch Striven using simulated targets were conclusive. Out of 50 launches, 47 worked perfectly, a 94% success rate. The Royal Navy immediately cancelled all other aerial torpedo projects and began mass production of the Mark 12 in 3 secret factories. However, absolute secrecy was critical. If the enemy discovered the technical details, they could develop specific countermeasures or replicate the technology themselves. The Admiralty decided the Mark 12 would only be used in night attacks, preferably during a new moon, over deep waters to ensure any failure would sink to depths inaccessible to divers. Pilots were ordered to self-destruct their planes if shot down to avoid capture. Admiral Andrew Cunningham, Supreme Commander of the Mediterranean Fleet, personally authorized the first operational attack, codenamed Judgment. The target, Taranto, the heart of the Italian Regia Marina. Taranto housed 40% of the Italian surface fleet, including 6 modern battleships. The port had 87 barrage balloons, double-mesh anti-torpedo nets reaching 12 meters deep, and over 100 automatic Breda anti-aircraft guns. Admiral Inigo Campioni, the base commander, had declared that not even 1,000 British planes could penetrate Taranto's defenses. No aerial attack in military history had ever succeeded against such concentrated and sophisticated defenses. On November 11, 1940, at exactly 8:40 p.m., under an absolutely black, moonless sky, the HMS Illustrious launched the first wave, 12 Fairey Swordfish biplanes. Each aircraft carried a 450 kg Mark 12 torpedo, dramatically reducing its speed and maneuverability. These were canvas-covered steel tubes with wooden wings, technically obsolete and extremely vulnerable. But they had an unexpected advantage: they flew so slowly, so low, and so quietly that they were almost invisible to Italian radars designed to detect fast bombers. They were electronic ghosts. At 11:47 p.m., Williamson sighted the illuminated port. The Italians expected no attack that night. Anti-aircraft crews were at minimum alert. Williamson dived to exactly 9 meters, adjusted the attack angle to 60 degrees, and released the torpedo. The Mark 12 entered the water with a surprisingly small splash. The guitar string system absorbed the 47G impact instantly. The torpedo leveled off using its internal gyroscope, accelerated to 65 km per hour, and ran toward the battleship Conte di Cavour. The impact was devastating. The 170 kg Torpex warhead detonated 2.3 meters below the waterline. The explosion tore a 12-meter hole in the hull, letting 400 tons of seawater into the engine room in less than 3 minutes. The Conte di Cavour began to sink immediately, its keel touching the bottom in just 11 minutes. But the coordinated attack was only beginning. For the next 67 minutes of chaos, successive waves of swordfish attacked in complete darkness, navigating between barrage balloons. The battleship Littorio, the pride of the Regia Marina, was hit 3 times. Each Mark 12 torpedo easily penetrated the underwater defenses that Italian engineers believed were impenetrable. The Torpex warheads were too powerful, opening holes that crossed multiple compartments simultaneously. The Caio Duilio took a single torpedo in the stern, destroying its steering system and propellers. By 1:15 a.m. on November 12, as the last swordfish disappeared into the darkness, the attack ended. Of the 21 swordfish that attacked through the most intense anti-aircraft fire recorded to that point, only 2 were shot down. The damage to the Italian fleet was catastrophic and unrecoverable: 3 battleships out of action, 2 heavy cruisers destroyed beyond repair, and 2 destroyers sunk. Most importantly, the morale of the Regia Marina was shattered. They lost half of their offensive capacity in less than 70 minutes of combat. The world realized naval warfare had changed forever. No port was safe. The era of the battleship was ending, the era of the aircraft carrier was beginning.